So, I'm a little short of breath, getting old, but I've taken you all today along on a trip to one of my favorite places in the world, which is, sorry, I'm just gonna adjust the camera a bit, which is the Bronze Age graves near my home in Lørenskog, outside of Oslo. And it is truly one of my favorite places on the planet, in addition to a couple of other places up north where my father is from. And yeah, it's one of those places where you can almost feel that you're going back in time coming up here, because there are very few marks of civilization apart from the path that is branded with blue paint, because it's the blue circuit. And there's some mosquitoes here as well. And other than that, there is, yeah, a few sort of minor modern signs here and there, but it's still fairly untouched. And, you know, there's an information board about the graves, or the mounds, I guess would be the correct term. They are from the Bronze Age. And what I want to talk about today is related to it. Listen to that bird song. It's beautiful. But what I wanted to talk about today is related to these graves to a certain degree, because it illustrates something that I think has been with us for thousands of years, especially sort of through storytelling means. It has been with us for quite some time, and that is archetypes. Now, my thoughts around stereotypes, which is just something completely different, is that they are largely culturally devised. So they are based upon a natural system of survival, which is the pattern in your head. When certain events fall into place, you come to quick conclusions to sort of avoid danger, and those thought patterns can form into stereotypical thoughts about certain groups or certain events that are about to happen. And that can lead to some dangerous thinking, like racism and whatnot, which is very much an idea that we discuss these days. And I think it's important that we discuss it, because it's very much of the now. Birdsong again. I'm sorry, I get easily distracted by it because it's so such a beautiful thing. But when it comes to archetypes, I'm not that sure if it's culturally divided or culturally devised. It feels like it's based upon a different system of thinking than necessarily stereotypical thinking. It seems more that it's based upon sort of natural conclusions of certain personality types. So what my thinking is that, for instance, you have many different archetypes out there. One of the most well known as the good king, for instance. The just king, the king that rules with fairness in mind. That is a well-known trope or archetype. It's not. Thought I heard something behind me. Maybe a monster. These forests could be rife with monsters. Who knows? But the idea of the good king is one that is based upon. I think it's based upon certain conclusions of certain personality types that sort of naturally evolves into that kind of thinking. Very often when I think of the good king, the good or the evil king, or the evil tyrant, or the tyrant is more correctly, I think of the Shakespearean skit by Rowan Atkinson, who had a one-man show in the late 80s where he sort of went through all these Shakespearean tropes, which I again think is something that happens again and again in history. So you have the good king, you have the mad king, and you have the evil king or the tyrant. And that because I had a letter exchange with Ged, who I consider a friend of mine, on Letter Wiki, and the thoughts around it was that we initially started talking about introversion and the lockdown, but eventually we started to. Oh, there's a mosquito. Eventually, we went down the path of talking about stuff like personality types. And introversion and extroversion is a scale, is one of the big 5 scales. So that can be sort of derived into an archetype. And the archetype that I think of in that case is the hermit or the wizard. A good example of that is Merlin, which is more of a introverted character. He likes to he doesn't necessarily like the counselor or the advisor to the king would be an archetype that fits into the introverted aspects of personality types. So what I'm thinking, sorry about the change of venue, there was a family that wanted to see the mounds, so I wanted to give them some space and not record them. So what I'm thinking is that there is something that can be sort of derived from certain personality types and certain combinations of personality types that can be molded into the archetypes. So for instance, you see, and again, this could then be sort of, yeah, sure, it can be part of the stereotypical thought patterns in humans, but this is maybe more on the sort of collective consciousness level of humanity. So therefore, the conclusions isn't necessarily based upon one human's interpretation of the the events, but more based upon what has been seen throughout the thousands of years of human history. So, for instance, what if humans have seen throughout time certain characteristics that can be connected to certain personality types? For instance, an introverted person who is more leaning towards thinking about or exploring the inner sphere, I guess, for the lack of a better word, of the inner sphere of humanity, and therefore becoming more of a sort of religious advisor to the king, or to that type of personalities, or to that type of personality, and therefore becoming an archetype. And I do realize that these aren't, I mean, it's not necessarily just connected to, it isn't necessarily just connected to gender either. It's connected to, I think it's connected more to personality types. And of course, that is distributed across the different aspects of humanity through a bell curve. Don't freak out, anti-Charles Murray's people. I'm not going down the IQ table, because that's not anywhere where I want to go down. But there is more people of a certain personality type distributed among different types of genders. Now, that doesn't exclude, certain personality types of that is more common among one gender to become to sort of fasten within. Ah, shit, got bit. Ah, shit, I talked shit and I got bit. Where was I? Oh yeah. It doesn't mean that it's more common for a certain personality type or that is more common within one gender, a personality type that is more common among one gender, not manifesting itself in another gender, or in the other gender. I know there are people who think there are more than one, and that may be true. I don't know. I'm not an expert in that area. But there is, for instance, a very good example of that is one of my favorite people on the planet, Therese Johaug, who's a Norwegian cross-country skier. Tremendously competitive. And competitiveness is far more common among men than they are among women. I'm not a competitive person, so you would actually maybe consider me to be more of a personality type that isn't common among men. I don't know. I'm not sure. But then again, I am very introverted. So, yeah, I would be the advisor to the good king, who's very competitive. It's a good analogy to say. But I don't know. And I may be ranting or rambling in this video as well, again, which I have a tendency to do for those few who watch my videos again and again. But I'm just a little bit, it just seems like there's something more to the archetype than what is is generally thought. And yeah, I don't know, honestly. And goddamn fucking mosquitoes everywhere. God damn it. I may have to cut this recording short. But I think there's something to the fact that we have inherited this from some earlier part of our evolution. And I don't necessarily think that the problem with thinking of this in an evolutionary standpoint, from an evolutionary standpoint maybe, is that a lot of people think that humanity is the pinnacle, or that we've stopped evolving. I don't think we have. But I don't think that you can force evolution necessarily. You can cultivate it to a certain degree, I guess, and that is a dangerous route to go down as well, because you sort of start thinking in eugenic terms, which is not one for me at all. At all. I don't like that idea at all, because I like the variety within humanity. And I think archetypes are just the extremes of personality types in humanity. And maybe they are the ideals. Maybe they are the storytellers and humanity in general trying to tell us that that is what certain personality types need to strive for. Maybe. I don't know. What are your thoughts about it? Leave, comments down there. And like and subscribe if you feel like it. I will be making a lot more of these videos in the future, because I'm starting to enjoy doing this. And I may be making a lot more video from this area, because I want to show you a lot more of it. Maybe one day I can just make a video on the history of this area, because it's fascinating. Anyways, I don't think I properly explained what I wanted to say, but whatever. Have a nice day.